Hi, everybody, and good afternoon, and welcome to 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt. We're coming to you live from our newsroom in downtown Panama City. Today, as you know, is the first Friday of February, February being Heart Health Month. And of course, the first Friday in February is set aside for Go Red for Women's Day, or Go Red for Women. It's to remind women about their heart health and to keep the risks low and to be assured that sometimes symptoms you think is something else could be affecting your heart. You could have heart disease. And the risks range from family history to smoking to poor eating habits. And of course, the symptoms can range from chest pain, which is traditional, but can also be vomiting, and back pain for women. It's a little bit different. A Panama City woman is here today. She is joining us to share her story. She had a heart attack just over a year ago, and we'd like to introduce her to you now. Glenda Harris. Good to see you today.
Good to see you, Amy.
And just before we get started, people may recognize your name and your voice because you were on the air on local radio for many years. And it's good to have you.
Thank you very much.
So you went into retirement, having a good time, and then one day, we're going to start at the beginning, just December of 22, you were coming back from vacation. Tell us what happened.
Okay, we left Charlotte, North Carolina, where we had visited relatives, and always do an early Christmas with them. And so we were headed back, and we wanted to get a few hours down the road. And so we were kept getting off when we got tired, and we could not find a hotel. So we'd get back on the interstate and go some more. But that happened a couple of times. And so finally, when we neared Atlanta, we were able to get a room. So went to bed about midnight, and then at 4 o'clock in the morning is when I woke up with horrible chest pain.
And what did you think initially?
I knew immediately, there was no doubt in my mind I was having a heart attack. No doubt.
So what do you do? I mean, is it a panic moment, or do you just jump into action?
Jump into action. The first thing I tried to do was to stumble around in the room and find the aspirin, and I couldn't find that. So, and I thought, I hate to wake my husband up because he's only had 4 hours sleep. But then I thought, I've got to go to the hospital. I've got to wake him up. So I woke him up and told him that I was having a heart attack. And he got me the aspirin and also a Pepsid, because I think his thought was, it's just indigestion. But he was wrong. Right. But I took it anyway. So, but then as I was putting my boots on to get ready for the hospital, took a moment and just had a prayer there in the room. And I remember that verse in Psalm 46 that says, God is our refuge and a very present help in time of trouble. And I just said, God, I'm in trouble. I need your help. And then we just quickly got to the hospital.
Did you drive in your own car?
We did. We realized later on that was a big mistake. Everybody fussed at us. But
for not calling an ambulance, you mean?
Right.
Because they could treat you in the back of the ambulance, maybe?
Right. Okay. But as things turned out, we found the hospital very quickly. Within probably 6 or 7 minutes, we were at the hospital.
How are you feeling now? Like, is the pain intense? Is it that whole feels like an elephant on your chest thing?
Oh, it was the worst pain you could absolutely imagine. And I've been through some pretty tough pain. But it just felt like a great big man was leaning against my chest with a big piece of metal.
Wow.
And it was all, the chest pain was intense, and then just in the neck area, just horrific pain.
So you find the emergency room at a hospital that you're not familiar with because you're out of town. And
Right.
What do? Do you go straight in and tell them we're having a heart attack?
Yes. And they took me right back to their emergency exam room, and a whole bunch of people started moving very quickly to help me. And the doctor, though, he immediately hooked me up to an EKG. And that told the story right away. And so he said, he looked down in my face and said, you are having a heart attack right now. So.
And then what? Like, are you going into surgery, or, what happens?
Okay, so what we did not realize is that was a small hospital, and they did not have a heart cath lab. So what they had to do is they had to send me by ambulance to Northside Hospital, which is a very large hospital. And
did they give you something, any kind of medication in
oh
between?
yes, oh yes, they did. In the meantime,
Is it nitroglycerin? No.
yes,
Yes.
they gave me nitro and then also morphine
For the
because
pain?
the pain was just off the charts.
Wow. Are you having trouble breathing?
No, not really. And I didn't have a lot of the symptoms that a lot of people would have that I've heard about in the past. I didn't have a lot of those. Mine was just the intense pain. I didn't have any sweating. I didn't have nausea. It was just horrible pain.
All right, so you get to the next emergency room.
Right. And another thing too, the first doctor at the first hospital, he called ahead to Northside, and he had a trauma team ready for me. And they had actually, when we got there, I mean, these people looked like they just hopped out of the shower. I mean, they had just gotten to the hospital. And so what I did not know at the time is how very, very wonderful and skilled they were. And I realized that pretty quickly. But in fact, the funny thing is that I had read just about 2 weeks before the heart attack, I read in a magazine that you never want to have a heart attack on the weekend because you're going to get the staff that's not very skilled. And that turned out to not be true at all. In fact, I had one of the finest heart doctors in the country, I do believe. And in fact, I have discovered that so many people here in Panama City even know him. He's got a great reputation. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm just wondering, at that point, like the clock is ticking, how long do they make you wait, or do they whisk you into surgery, or what?
When I was at the second hospital, I went right into the heart cath lab, where they determined that they needed to get some stents in me because I was, I found out later, 100% blocked.
Wow.
And I mean, I couldn't even imagine how bad that was. But
so how many stents do you end up with?
I ended up with 3 stents. Now, had the heart condition been detected ahead of time, I would not have had stents. I would have probably been a candidate for open heart surgery. But based on the fact that they were saving my life, literally saving my life, they had no choice but to do the stents.
Okay, so you have the 3 stents in. Are you awake for that procedure?
It's a twilight sleep, so you're kind of in and out of consciousness. And but I was awake enough to hear the frustration in the doctor's voice. He kept going, oh, like I just can't get this done, and I just felt like the first thought I had when I was conscious is I thought, you know what? I haven't even thought about dying. I had not even thought about dying up until that point. And then I thought, you know, this could go either way. And so then I just prayed and asked God, you know, if you're ready for me, I'll go. And then I said, but if you'll let me stay, because I started thinking of all my family. And you know, of course, those granddaughters are really special too, you know. But I thought of all my family and friends and loved ones, and I just didn't want to leave them. And so I said, if you'll let me stay, I would appreciate that so much. And he certainly did answer that prayer. He answered that prayer.
You must have been a good girl. Well, that's frightening, and that had to be frightening moments. I mean, they had to add some stress to it all on top of everything. How long are you under while they're doing stents?
Well, actually, most of the time when people are in the heart cath lab, and this is what I've been told, they're in there for 30 minutes to an hour. I was in there for 2.5 hours. And it's because, and remember the frustration I heard in the doctor's voice, it was a very hard procedure because at least 2 of those stents had to be quite close to each other. And it was just really hard to place them. And so at one point, I just felt the thought hit my brain, why don't you pray for this doctor? And so I did. And I just a simple prayer. I just prayed that he would have a pathway to get it done, to get it done. And I don't know how much time after that passed, but then when I heard him say, "It's done," oh, that was such a relief.
It's amazing to me that you had enough wherewithal to think of someone else in that moment. But I guess a lot is running through your mind if you can hear what's happening around you.
Right.
So, okay, so now you have the stents. I guess they've stabilized you. How long you have to stay in that hospital?
I was there for actually 2.5 days in intensive care. And I was amazed that I got out of the hospital so fast.
Yeah.
But it was funny because the doctor, for some reason, did not realize we were traveling through. He thought we lived in Atlanta. Oh. And so he said, "Okay, I want to see you in a week." And I said, "Doc, I don't live here." And he said, "Where do you live?" Oh. And I said, "Panama City, Florida." And he said, "So what are your plans? Are you going home today?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he did not want me to. And so he made my husband promise him that every hour he would get me out of the car and walk me a little bit, you know.
So you started to drive home.
Yeah.
You did.
After that 2.5 days, yeah.
Well, you're strong, I have to say. All right, so you come back here and now you have to get a doctor here. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Now, you have a history, you told me, a family history of heart health, heart disease in your family, correct?
Yes.
All right, so this wasn't a big surprise for you, I have to guess? But did you know it was coming, or you had checked for it before? Well,
in the back of my mind, I always thought, maybe I should get a cardiologist. But the blood work that I had a few months prior to this event indicated that there were no problems. I mean, my blood work was very, very good. And the blood work does indicate a lot of times when there are, problems. But anyway, so based on the fact that I didn't need one yet, I didn't move in that direction. Although I did talk to my general practitioner and I said, what do you think? And he said, well, your blood work looks great now. You're doing great now. But he said one final warning as I left his office that day, he said, things can change.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that was prolific, I'm sure, looking back.
Right.
So the rest of your treatment now, your care has been in Bay County, in Panama City.
Yes, I do. I'm also a patient at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you go back and forth for checkups now. Where does your health stand? Because you look like the picture of health.
I know. I do.
Do you feel okay? Do you feel good?
I feel great. I really feel great. And I'm on quite a few medicines. And one of the things I remember years ago, being in radio, I was asked to be a candidate for Queen of Hearts for the American Heart Association. Remember that? Well, anyway, so I remember learning at the time that there were so many new treatments and new breakthroughs in that industry or in that field, so by the time I had the heart attack, things have really progressed. And so they can keep you alive a lot better and easier than they could years ago.
Right. Are you at risk of another heart attack? Would the stents ever have to come out? Would you ever face surgery down the road?
All of that's a big question. I don't know. I think if you were to interview my doctors here, they would tell you that they're nervous for me because my heart function is not what we want to see it be. And let me explain that in just a moment. If you have a heart attack, you automatically have heart damage. And so when you have that damage, it really weakens the heart. So what they're doing right now to help in that regard, they suggest, regular exercise, trying to eat better, limiting salt. I've never been a smoker, don't drink, and so those were not an issue. But the medicines that they have out now are very, very helpful and hopeful. Right. To help actually heal some damage in the heart. Right. And so that's what we're hoping for.
Did they help keep your blood flowing, like a blood thinner or something like that?
Right.
Right.
Yes. That's one of the aspects of it, yes.
Now, will those stents just stay there forever, I assume?
Yes, and they're supposed to be good for at least 10 years. Okay. So the bottom line is, you asked before about open heart surgery. I may be a candidate in the future for that. I hope not, because that's a tough surgery.
Right.
It's very tough.
So how often do you go for checkups now?
Just about once a month or so. They typically don't see the average heart patient that often. However, because of the way everything happened with me and the severity of everything, because it was what they call a widow-maker heart attack. So it's the worst heart attack you can have, and 100% blocked. And so they feel that they do have to keep an eye on me. So I do see the doctor fairly often.
What do you think when you say that? Like, does it play in your psyche that you had something that severe and you were out of town? I mean, all the odds were against you, but yet here you are.
That's funny that you should ask, because there's times I'll be doing housework or watching TV or watching the news.
Thank you.
and I'll think, I just kind of have to remind myself that I've had a heart attack. It just seems like it should be somebody else that I'm thinking about or talking about,
But you're a positive person, so I'm guessing that plays a role in your recovery.
I am a very positive person, yes, and I know that has helped me in more ways than one through my life, for sure.
And your faith, obviously.
Yes, very strong.
Also, you had told me prior to your heart attack, your husband Mike had a heart attack a year prior?
Well, he didn't actually have a heart attack. One morning we were having our coffee, and I just said to him, just out of the blue, I said, we need to get blood work done. And he said, okay. And so I called right away and arranged for that. And we both had it done. And the doctor actually discovered with the blood work for Mike that some things were wrong. And so he immediately got a cardiologist for him. He sent him for a stress test. He got the ball rolling on that.
Did he have surgery?
He had 5 bypasses.
Whoa.
Yes. So, it just blew us away.
Blood work is important. More important than you think it is.
It really is. Really is important.
You saved his life.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I know he's a good man.
Right.
We're glad you did. My goodness. Well, how did your family deal with this, especially since he kind of knew something because he's been through it?
They've just been wonderfully supportive of me, and the granddaughters they've had their worrying time and crying time, and it's been very precious to me. But I'm assuring them, Gigi's here, and hanging in there, So but they have been abundantly supportive. Right. One of the things I just now thought about that I'd like to mention too is at our church, one of our associate pastors, my husband got a hold of him as my husband is waiting for me while I'm in the heart cath lab. And he sent a text to him and said, will you please be praying Glenda has had a heart attack? And within moments, he got a call from him, and his name is Dr. David Hecht. And he actually prayed with my husband, and then he went around. That was on a Sunday morning when this all happened. And he went around to every adult Bible class in the church and asked everybody to pray for me that day. So plus
you recovered, huh?
Yes, and
You
my
recovered.
kids' churches were praying. So
Well, that's wonderful.
It was.
Well, heart disease can affect, as you know, anyone of any age, men or women.
That's right.
Of course, today we're focused on women. What advice do you have for people?
One of the things that I've talked to my doctors about, and they have said that this is a great idea. You get the little ads for Lifeline or Lifeline screening, I believe it's called.
Right.
And it does several tests. They say, that's not a bad idea to do something like that. And if you do have a family heart history that's not very good, do be aware of things like that.
Right.
And if you ever get short of breath, so many people have told me that's a key factor in knowing that you do have heart disease and you need to get a checkup.
Good advice today. Well, we're glad you're with us. We're glad you were blessed and you had a good, good doctor in Atlanta in an emergency, in a crisis circumstance like that.
Right.
We're grateful for you coming out and sharing your story today as well.
Well, I'm honored.
Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Well, of course, the reminder today, go red for women, but just not women, men and women. If you feel something, say something and see your doctor. We thank you for watching today. We'll see you next time.